Now that we've completed the Easter egg to Citadelle Des Morts, we have its ending cutscene, and oh my gosh, does this have two humongous reveals for this. Now obviously major spoilers for this ending cutscene, like this is some pretty big stuff, but if you clicked on this video you probably already knew that. But before we get into this, I don't know if you guys realize, but we're back to peak Call of Duty Zombies. Gameplay, story, everything is just amazing again. It's been so long and we are finally back. And if you guys agree, show me by dropping a like and even subscribing if you are already. But with that said, let's get into this cutscene. So let's casually start off with the big one. We may be returning with DLC to the Black Ops 6 Zombies to Origins. Yes, you guys heard me correctly, we may be going back to Origins, which is absolutely insane. Now, of course, why do we think this is probably going to be the case? Well, it actually has to do with what KRAFFT'S says right here.
Take it to the excavation site, but beware the Sentinel artifact. It could consume you.
He says the Sentinel artifact is at the excavation site. Now, we normally say that, you don't really think too much of it, but when Treyarch says that, especially in their games, that means one thing and one thing only to all of us. Because if you draw your memory back to Black Ops 2, what actually happened with that game is, like, you had the official names for maps. Like, for example, we knew Transit as Transit, but if you actually went in game, it actually says Green Run as the name of the map. And the same exact thing happened with Origins, because even though its name is Origins, in game it's actually called Excavation Site 64. And that's exactly it. There's a direct connection to Origins here, using the exact same name for the map, except minus the 64, which could factor in here and there, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, of course, that's not the only evidence for this, and later in the cutscene, Ravnov says this.
The dig site he mentioned. It is not far.
Calling it the dig site, he says it's actually nearby to where we are. And that's also very key, because where is Citadelle Des Morts taking place? Well, it's none other than France. And what happens to be nearby, and in other words, also in France? None other than Origins. Something else that is also told to us that it takes place in northern France in 1918. And I don't know if it gets more obvious than that. We are going back to Origins. Now, how it's actually going to turn out, I really don't know. But there's definitely a ton of room to speculate and theorize what exactly could happen with that. But as of now, we don't have any solid things. But if I just have to give you my initial hunch to how it's going to be, I don't think we're going to see like a remake of Origins. Especially, you have to keep in mind that we're still not in the original universe. It may be the same location as it was in the previous universe, but it's not really the same location. So it could be changed a lot, especially keep in mind that this is taking place in the 1990s, where Origins took place in 1918. There's like almost 100 years difference between those. Obviously that place is going to change, but it is interesting because the original reason why this was an excavation site was because this is where they were getting 115, like one of the first places in that universe where they had 115. Whereas this time around, it's instead going to be the Sentinel artifact, which makes it very, very interesting. Which, speaking of the Sentinel artifact, it seems like Chaos is just the Dark Aether storyline now. I questioned this before this map came out, if Chaos was just going to be a one-off thing for Citadelle Des Morts and then never mentioned again, but it seems like it is an integral part of this storyline going forward. But of course, it doesn't end there. There's also another major reveal that's shown to us. And this is when Gabriel KRAFFT'S says this.
Please don't kill him. He is my son.
He's my son. Richtofen is the son of Gabriel KRAFFT'S? Well, yes, but kind of no at the same time. He's his son, but it's not his biological son. This is actually further explained to us in the radios, which if you guys haven't heard the radios from this map, they're a great listen. I'll have them linked on screen right now. And I'm going to go further depth in this video solely dedicated to this in the future, but for a quick summary, what is explained to us in those radios is that Kraft and his partner Sasha wanted to adopt a boy for a long time, but through the events of Vanguard zombies, we hear that Sasha ends up dying and obviously not being able to adopt that son with Gabriel Kraft, but eventually down the road, once everything is wrapped up after the events of Vanguard, Gabriel Kraft ends up adopting a little scared boy from an orphanage, and this turns out to be Eddie. And this makes sense because, keep in mind, very similar to Samantha and her story, these are the only two characters that came from the previous universe, and when they did that, they were both left orphans, and obviously they were adopted by different people. We now know for sure that Richtofen was adopted by Kraft. But something that's interesting that was confirmed in that radio is that Richtofen also has that memory loss from the old universe. But in those same radios, it seemed like he was getting callbacks to that universe way earlier than Samantha ever was, which is a humongous thing to keep in mind. But again, we'll make a video solely dedicated to explaining all of that in the near future. But the main point for now is just the effects that this all had on Richtofen and why he knows everything. Because keep in mind, Gabriel Kraft was in contact with dark ether entities, sentinel artifacts, literally Alistair Rhodes from the Chaos storyline. He knew them all. He was interacting with all of them. And he had all that knowledge, and obviously by adopting a kid, that's probably going to pass over at least some to them just in passing or talking about it or sharing a passion about it. And this explains why Richtofen is even possible for him to be able to be doing anything like this, where he even got his standing in any of this, because he got that from his adopted dad, Kraft. And this really changes a lot, because normally when we think of Richtofen, we think of Dr. Edward Richtofen, right? The scientist, the sci-fi story of all of this. But it seems like where he started was not from the science side. Instead, it was from a literal demonologist with Gabriel Kraft, who interacted with the supernatural and magic. That's where his perspective comes from. All of this other sci-fi stuff is secondary to what he originally knew. And I think this is going to be something that is going to be very, very important for the storyline going forward. And I'm sure there's so many other theories and ideas we could spread off from this, but that's going to wrap it up for this one. And I'd love to hear what you guys think about this one. I need to read through all the comments on this one because these are some crazy developments. Like, I would have never expected that we were going to return to the same location as Origins, or even that Richtofen was the adopted son of Gabriel Kraft. Like, that is huge. But regardless though, that's going to wrap it up for this video. And I want to thank you guys all so much for watching, but I'll catch you guys in the next one.